West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Thursday, September 25th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Headline coming from CBS 4. Police in northern Colorado arrest dangerous man recently released from jail who was allegedly seen with a gun. Police in Greeley arrested a man who officials with the University of Northern Colorado say was spotted on their campus with a gun. The man arrested was the same man whose earlier criminal case got national attention 2 weeks ago after being released from jail against the wishes of the sheriff up there, Steve Reams, and the district attorney. The release happened 2 weeks ago after Colorado law allowed him to walk free from unrelated charges like attempted murder. You may have remembered this. Sheriff Steve Reams going on all the media, sending out an alert to the community. My hands are tied here. It's a stupid law that Colorado has that if there's not enough beds and someone's deemed unable to stand trial, that we just release them. And I mean beds in the kind of mental health facilities. So they're crazy. We don't have enough beds for them. And according to Colorado law, if they're deemed unfit to stand trial, we just have to release these dangerous people back into the community. And it's not just this guy. Channel 7 and Natalie Chuck's been covering this for over a year. That this is happening all over the state of the Colorado. People that are very dangerous are being released into the community. You saw it right here near the station in the Cherry Creek School District with Solomon Galligan, who was trying to kidnap a kid off the playground, then gets released by the DA because of this same law. Steve Reams called it. He tried to warn his community, and yesterday, this man arrested, apparently on the campus of the University of Northern Colorado, with a gun. Now, I thought we had laws to try to prevent this from happening, but welcome to the state of Colorado where dangerous people are able to get guns. We're going to talk with Steve Reams here in just a second. He's going to join us live. You're not going to want to miss this conversation, though. Now is time for news and comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson,
news and comment.
Hey, good morning. It is Thursday and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 78 today. This portion of the news sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, a Leadville man has been arrested following a deadly shooting in Lake County. 31-year-old Robert Price Chase was arrested Tuesday on US 24 just south of Leadville. Investigators say Chase and 40-year-old Landon Mentink were involved in an altercation motivated by road rage. Chase was charged with second-degree murder and had his bond set at $100,000. 27-year-old Matthew Littlefield has been arrested for the deadly shooting in Parker. Shots were fired after an argument between people in two vehicles. A man was found dead near his vehicle after the shooting. Littlefield is expected to face a charge of second-degree murder. The man released from the Weld County jail earlier this month because of a new Colorado law was on the UNC campus, seen with a firearm inside a UNC residence hall, which is illegal, and 21-year-old Ephraim DeBisa was rearrested. Another example of how soft on crime affects innocent Coloradans. And Sheriff Ream coming up with Jeff and Billy in just a minute. Once again, puts the criminals in front of the citizens. The investigation continues in the Metroplex in North Texas.
Secretary Kristi Noem says Wednesday's shooting in Dallas should serve as a wake-up call to the far left that their rhetoric about ICE has consequences. No ICE officers were hit by gunfire in the attack, but 3 detainees were. One of them died. 2 others were listed in critical condition. The suspected shooter was found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The words anti-ICE were found written on bullet casings at the scene. I'm Rory O'Neill.
And J.D. Vance says DJT is growing incredibly impatient with Russia over the Ukraine war. VP JD says that 47 doesn't feel like they're putting enough on the table to end the war. Vance said that if the Russians refuse to negotiate in good faith, it's going to be very, very bad for their country. Former FBI Director James Comey, oh man, please let this happen, is expected to be indicted on criminal charges today. A report from Messy NBC says prosecutors are expected to file charges at a federal court in Virginia regarding false statements Comey allegedly made to Congress in 2020 about a probe into Russia meddling in the presidential election.
Do you stand by your House testimony on March 20th that there was no surveillance of the Trump campaign that you're aware of?
Correct.
You would know about it if they were, is that correct?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
DJT is expected to sign a deal later today that will allow TikTok to continue operating in the U.S. Congress voted last year to ban the video sharing app for national security reasons unless it sold its U.S. operations. William Shatner's agent is denying reports that the 94-year-old actor is in the hospital. They say that it is not true. Big games Saturday coming up, college football in a couple days. BYU at CU, Washington State at CSU, Hawaii at Air Force, Idaho State at UNC. 44 in Westminster, 45 in Greenwood Village, and 46 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Gorgeous September weather here for the next few days for Denver in the Front Range. Temperatures will be very comfortable, mid to upper 70s today, low 80s Friday, upper 70s Saturday. Will be a touch cooler in the low to mid 70s Sunday. Today through Saturday, sunny and dry, maybe an isolated shower late Sunday, otherwise pleasant. Weather is a service of L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call L&L Heating and Air Conditioning at 720-851-1691. Visit them online at bestdenverhvac.com. You'll be comfortable with L&L. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Can you imagine what Sheriff Steve Reams is having to deal with this guy? It's like on a daily basis. What are we doing? I don't know. Ephraim DeBisa is doing something stupid to threaten our community. And the way the state law is set up, we can't put him away. It's crazy. Joining us to give us some insight is the great Sheriff Steve Reams. Good morning, Sheriff. Thank you for taking time to join us.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I'm sad that we have to continue to have this conversation because I know you're doing everything you possibly can to keep your community safe, but the way the state law is set up, you got to keep dealing with this guy who's a threat. Tell us the latest.
Yeah, this is a mess. As you guys know, I was forced to release this guy a couple of weeks back for an attempted second-degree murder charge because he was found incompetent to stand trial for, the 8th or 9th time. So he was released to the street, and just to make things clear, he's not mentally ill. He doesn't have an underlying mental illness. This label that he's given of incompetent to stand trial is based on his cognitive ability, allegedly, to understand the criminal justice system or the process. All that being said, he gets released. We're just waiting for the next shoe to drop, and unfortunately, not last night but the night before, that very thing happened. He showed up on the UNC campus which he's been trespassed from, I think, 6 or 7 prior times. So he shows up on the UNC campus with another person. That person is also being sought out right now for potential criminal charges. But he's got a AR-15 style rifle with him in his possession as he shows up to one of the residence halls or residence apartments on the UNC campus. Obviously, he's there against a prior trespass charge. So UNC PD responds to investigate, and of course, this person who's alleged mentally incompetent is smart enough to know, well, I better get out of here. So he leaves. UNCPD gets an arrest warrant for him. That goes into the system, and then my officers, my deputies, along with the Greeley PD's officers, basically descended on the area for most of the day until we could find this guy, because he's dangerous. He's extremely dangerous. Between our combined efforts, we were able to catch him yesterday afternoon at his parents' house where he was hiding in their basement, and we took him into custody. He didn't have the gun in his possession, so this person who's incompetent, allegedly, is smart enough to know to hide from the cops and hide the gun or not have the gun in his possession when he's arrested. It's just frustrating. He's in my jail. We don't have a current mugshot of him because he's uncooperative with my staff, combative with my staff. So, mental illness, incompetent, whatever you want to call it, I think he's just evil. And quite honestly, he doesn't deserve to be in our country. He's a refugee here from Tanzania, and I think he's provided every reason why he should get a one-way ticket back.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Is here legally? So has he been granted refugee status? Did that happen under the Biden administration? Do you know any of those details?
I believe he's been here for 6 years plus. So yeah, it would have been during the Biden administration, I'm assuming. I don't know. It could have been at the tail end of Trump's first administration. Regardless, Tanzania is a country that if they migrate here and they can provide that they're, in some kind of threat, then yeah, they would likely receive refugee status. All that being said, if you were the threat in your country and you're now the threat in our country, I think you should go back. And obviously this guy does not comport with our social norms or our laws here in the United States. He has no desire to prove that he wants to follow the law here. I mean, he just doesn't care. I don't care what label you put on this guy. I think the most accurate one is, like I said before, it's evil.
Has he spent any time in jail before? I find that tends to humble somebody up a little bit. Has he ever spent time in light of all the charges he's faced in the past?
Yeah, he's spent some significant time in the jail going through the competency problem or competency evaluations with each of these charges. But he tends to function fine in a general housing unit. He makes friends. He interacts with other inmates. It's just like it's another day for him. So it's not the deterrent that you would think it would be. And he knows at the end of all this, based on his past history, that he's likely to get a free pass again. So, what's a little bit of time in jail? He gets 3 hots in a cot, and I guess that's good enough. I don't know. I can't understand the mindset with this guy, but he certainly is not remorseful for anything that he's done, based on my observations and what I've seen from him in my facility.
That's the sheriff of Weld County, Steve Reams. He's also running to be county commissioner. He's doing a great job up there. Sheriff, who is it that keeps determining that he has some type of cognitive inability to understand the legal system? Who's that person?
Well, so that's a great question. This is a function of the criminal justice system. So essentially, there'll be someone that's labeled a quote unquote qualified person or professional person who can do these evaluations. So each person where competency is questioned will go before this professional person, who's usually some kind of mental health professional, and they'll make the determination if this person has the cognitive ability to understand the navigation of the criminal justice system. I question whether or not they're really spending the time needed to make that evaluation, because obviously this guy he should not be getting the label that he's getting, in my opinion. The fact that he's not formally educated as well as some doesn't mean he doesn't understand the difference between right and wrong. All that being said, these professional persons give their evaluation to the courts, and then the courts have to make the determination of, okay, yeah, we accept this or we don't. And, quite frankly, they can challenge it a couple of ways, but with the passage of several new laws in the state of Colorado, that's a very short window, and ultimately the deck is stacked towards the suspect, and in this case, it just keeps failing over and over.
And Sheriff, last time you made the announcement, it got the attention of Elon Musk and Jared Polis responding, saying, "Oh no, Sheriff, there's plenty of ways to keep this guy in." What was your response to the governor?
Well, so yeah, the governor was just foolhardy in the way he responded. He made some assumptions that we had not taken steps through the county attorney's office or through the district attorney's office to try to figure out how to put this person in a mental health facility, and he was just dead wrong. And so the district attorney, Michael Rourke up here, he called him out on it. The governor actually initiated a phone call back and forth, from what I understand. I don't know if he apologized, but to try to clarify his misunderstanding. But ultimately, the district attorney went on, he put out a press release for a press conference, and he corrected the narrative very succinctly. All that being said, the governor still hasn't called a special session. He still hasn't said, we got to fix this. I mean, if nothing else, just repeal the stupid law that you enacted in 2024. That might be a start. They're gnashing their teeth and, wringing their hands about, oh, how do we fix this issue? Well, undo what you broke. I think that would be a good start.
It'd be an easy start.
Well, yeah, right. And look, this is not just a Democrat issue. Republicans supported this law, too. I think they got it wrong.
Yeah.
I don't blame people for getting policies wrong. I blame them when they get it wrong and they continue to make it a problem. Have you heard from Republicans that want to address this? Are they willing to go back and say, guys, we were part of this. We want to change this. We got this one wrong?
I have. There's a couple of the legislators up in Weld County, most notably Senator Barb Kirkmeyer. She's reached out to me. We've had several phone calls about, okay, how do we correct this? And, I'm not the expert in determining how someone's mental competency is evaluated, but I think it's pretty clear that one way to fix this is to just, like I said before, undo the stupid laws that you put into action in 24. I think Barb Kirkmeyer is probably going to lead that effort. But I've been contacted by a few other legislators, Representative Lori Garcia Sanders, and then Representative Ty Winter down in the south part of the state. But I think, unless that special session happens, their hands are kind of tied right now, too. So really, this lays at the feet of the governor. If you want to fix this and stop this madness, call the special session and bring the legislators back and say, let's fix it. I mean, this is an opportunity. It really is an opportunity for a bunch of legislators to come together and say, hey, we all got this wrong. Let's get it right. For the safety of Colorado.
That's the problem, Sheriff. Right. You're asking them to say they got it wrong. You know how hard that is? It's like, you remember on the Fonz when he had to say that he was wrong? And that's what our legislators like. He never could say it. That's what our state legislature is like. Now, we're talking to Sheriff Steve Reams. He's reminding us of that character he had to cut free from his jail because it had been determined that person does not seem to understand the complexities of our justice system. Well, surprise, surprise, despite having a violent history, he decided to do it again. He showed up on the UNC campus recently with an AR-15 style rifle, a place he has trespassed 6 times before. When things started to get a little dicey, this person that doesn't understand our justice system obviously left the location. Strange. Once they issued a warrant for him, then knew enough to hide in the basement of his parents' house and also dispose of the gun. But didn't know what was going on, and our justice system is too complex and strange for him. So I didn't know. I mean, Sheriff Reams, I didn't know that the unfrozen caveman lawyer defense from Phil Hartman in the 80s and Saturday Night Live was actually a thing. I didn't know you could say, oh, your ways confuse, startle me, and I don't understand what's going on here. That if I knew that, I would have caused a lot more trouble when I was below 18. I didn't know that's an actual defense, that we can just say, I don't understand what's going on. And how is this possibly still existing? The fact that our legislature looks at this and says, well, seems like some of the people we're charging with crimes can just say, I don't understand what's going on here. Please let me free. And we just do. What do they think the consequences of this behavior is going to be? How difficult? That's not a fair question. Better question for you, Sheriff, is how difficult have laws like this made it to keep your community safe? Because you did the admirable thing. When you had to release this guy, you said, listen, I'm charged to keep and protect the safety of my community. This guy is unsafe. I'm going to let you all know that he's out there and there's nothing I can do about it. Right. How difficult have some of these laws been to do your job and to keep the community safe?
Well, so it's been extraordinarily difficult to operate in, I'll say, the last 5 to 10 years in the criminal justice space. I mean, it just gets more and more difficult. The biggest ratcheting effect was, during the summer of love, as I affectionately refer to it, in 2020, when all the police reform bills went through, and there was this effort to handcuff police more so than to handcuff criminals. But all that being said, there's times now with bail reform and whatnot, we'll arrest the same person 10, 12 times before they finally are in on enough charges where, okay, there's a chance they're going to go to prison or going to go away for a while. But then you throw in this competency issue on top of it. I mean, I think this guy's 12th arrest, and, we don't have a lot of confidence that anything's going to happen other than what's already happened. And so it's just, rinse and repeat. It's demoralizing for law enforcement. And quite honestly, it's demoralizing for the victims of this guy from his prior cases. Because even if he is restored, for his competency at some point, those past cases are done. You can't go back and retry them. So he's gotten a free pass up until this point. So if some miracle happens and now somebody comes in and evaluates him and says, no, he's competent enough to stand trial. Well, it doesn't matter on all those past cases. Those victims are left they're left victimized for the rest of their life. They don't get their day in court. It's frustrating. I'm grateful that there are still people entering this profession, and I sometimes scratch my head and say, do you have any idea what you're walking into? But I'm glad they are, because without people that were still willing to pick up the mantle and put on the shield, this state would be in a world of mess. And it's so difficult because the laws in this state are not helpful to everyday citizens, and they're certainly not helpful to potential victims.
That frustration is none other than with Sheriff Steve Reams out of Weld County, joining Jeff and Bill live, talking about, you remember that guy that Sheriff had to cut loose out of the jail earlier because couldn't charge him because the guy was so confused about our justice system. And that was a determination from our justice system. Nope, sorry, can't do anything about this guy. Well, he showed up on the UNC campus with a firearm, and when a warrant was issued, he understood the system enough to run away and hide. So that's difficult. Now, Sheriff, I want to ask you, what is something or the largest thing that many of our lawmakers do not understand about the job that our rank and file law enforcement people are trying to do? What are the things that you wish you could take them on a ride along or just get them in a room and say, listen here, you pointy head nerds, this is what you don't understand about what we're trying to do out here on the streets? What is the thing that most of our legislators just don't get?
Well, it's easy to write laws from the armchair quarterback perspective. It's easy to put these restrictions on law enforcement in a vacuum. What they really need to do is set in the driver's seat or the passenger seat of a patrol car during one of these opportunities where we're going out and hunting a guy down like Debisa Ephraim and showing exactly how intense this is, how dangerous it is, and how critical it is to be able to make split-second decisions that may have ramifications for the rest of everybody's life who's involved in that particular situation. cops are asked to make split-second decisions based on what they see and observe, and what their intake is. And sometimes they're going to get that wrong. Sometimes what they see is not exactly correct. What they perceive is not exactly the right threat, and they're going to react to it in a certain way. And the lawmakers have done knee-jerk reactions and created laws about those mistakes instead of saying, okay, how do we limit the mistakes? And they've applied wide sweeping rules across the law enforcement platform to say these instances can never occur, and if they do, here's the ramifications for it to everybody in law enforcement. It's push people out of this profession, and I do call it a profession because this isn't something you just stumble into, but it's pushed people out of this profession. It's made it increasingly difficult to recruit and retain people. And at the same time, the deck has been tilted towards the bad guy. The bad guy gets a vote in every one of these scenarios. They always have a decision in whether or not they're going to go peacefully or whether or not they're going to comply with law enforcement or resist or whatever the case may be. But in our current society, they get again, the deck is tilted in their favor. They get all the breaks, and law enforcement gets all the scrutiny.
Oh, that is Sheriff Steve Reams out of Weld County. That's difficult to hear, Sheriff. Now, I want to give voice to a couple of callers off air. They couldn't stick around, but it was a little tongue-in-cheek. They were basically asking, wait, hang on here, Sheriff. Are you telling me that all of these gun laws that have been passed by our legislature, the red flag laws, that somehow this guy who is a violent offender still was able to get a hold of a firearm? What happened to all of those laws that our well-meaning legislature passed in order to keep us safe? How come they didn't work?
Well, obviously, because criminals don't follow the law.
You don't say.
Every time you write one of these ridiculous gun laws, it's always aimed at the law-abiding citizen who we don't typically interact with on these types of issues. If a person's going to attempt to murder someone and they're going to do so with a firearm, they don't care about violating a firearm law. It's common sense, and that's the thing that seems to be lacking most often with our lawmakers. It's just common sense. I don't know. You can pass all the gun laws you want, and it's not going to change the scenario that we're seeing, like in this particular case. It's just not.
Well, Sheriff, I hope you can send a message to all the brave men and women that serve with you up there, especially in light of what happened in Dallas yesterday. It's terrible, the target that exists out there on good people that are just trying to keep communities safe. It's unacceptable. And they put on a badge. They go out there to make our streets safe so our kids can have a good life. They risk it. And what has happened in this society that has put, I don't want to say it, but targets on the good men and women of law enforcement, ICE, CBP, it's unacceptable. These progressive policies have made our communities less safe, and that's the hands that we have tied, and they still have to go out there and do a job. Law enforcement does. That's why we love them so much. From the Jeff and Bill Show, please tell all the good men and women up there in Weld County and across the state of Colorado serving in law enforcement and first responders that we appreciate them. And I really appreciate your time today and the good work you're doing up there. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for bringing attention to this issue.
You know what we could do is we have a good bounty hunter in Colorado.
With one of the best mullets ever.
Yes. Just put Dog up there. Say, Dog, you have one job to do today. Follow this guy around.
I'm sorry.
He would love it.
There's a thing in the back end. And Pete Boyles talks about this all the time, that there's this great wrestling promo at one point where the idea is that this professional wrestler is having a problem with some of these bad guys. And he's like, there's only one thing I can do. It's the Crusher. He's sitting there and he goes, there's only one thing I can do. I got to bring in the dog. And they drop down the picture of the wrestler that had the dog back there. And so that's what I can see. I can see Steve Reams sitting up there and go, you know what? We've had enough of this. Yeah. There's one thing I got to do. I got to bring in the dog. And then you drop the poster down behind him.
I'm the dog.
Yes, exactly.
The big bad dog.
Oh, my gosh.
He's a national treasure. Just unleash him on this guy. Just follow him around. Your job, follow everywhere he goes.
Yes.
Like a dog.
That's wonderful.
All right. Colorado and Democrat. And look, Steve Reams is a sheriff. His job is not to get political.
No,
it's my
not at
job
all.
to get political.
Yeah.
So here's what I'll say. We're in this position in this state. We are in this position as a country where ICE agents are being shot at because Democrats love criminals more. They always do. They will always side on the side of whoever is breaking the law. I don't get it. I don't understand it. If they had any common sense, they'd be Republicans to begin with. But it is always criminals first with Democrats. Always is. They're backwards in their thinking. I'm tired of our state suffering. I'm tired of Steve Reams having to arrest this guy over and over and over again. He was on a college campus with a gun yesterday, 2 days ago. Stop electing Democrats. All right. Join the conversation.
Yes.
303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. You got a child at UNC. Thank God they weren't shot yesterday. And it was completely preventable. And we just keep electing Democrats and keep putting ourselves in this situation. But I will say this about Republicans. They need to get a lot more aggressive about calling for the special session. I know they have done a little bit. I'm not saying they haven't done anything. Come on, guys. Yeah. Seriously. You got the Democrats on their backs on this issue. You've got the attention of Elon Musk. Why we aren't screaming from the rooftops that there needs to be a special session to adjust this, I don't get it. And I'll say this final thing. Natalie Chuck has been covering this for a year. This is not new to any of us. We've been covering it since April.
You know what would help? Again, if you're going to try to make the case, if you're going to try to force a special session, and maybe someone like Natalie Chuck could do the hard work. I'm not going to. I have other stuff to do today. So, but the idea of looking at how many people have been cut loose from exactly what Steve Reams had talked about. That idea, and not necessarily this specific case, but individuals that have committed crimes and can't be charged for a variety of reasons based on that law that we were talking about. And so that's kind of the idea, is to look at what the pain is. And so that's, I think, the only way that you might be able to motivate them into a special session, because unfortunately, based on the makeup of the legislature, so far, the Republicans and some of Colorado voters have not held Democrats accountable for bad decisions. Now, I think there are a variety of reasons for that, but that's part of the problem in my mind, that there is no consequence for bad laws in certain areas in Colorado. So the legislature isn't as worried about enacting bad law because they do not have any fallout because of it. They've left out a lot of the contemplation, debate, reasoning. They've just decided they're right because they got elected, not because they have to have the difficult conversations and figure out what the state needs. It's, I'm here, I'm in this position, I have to be correct, so now let's just do it. And we saw that in the last special session when it's supposed to be about closing a budget hole, and they show up with more ideas about spending, which is the exact opposite of what you'd want to do. If you were sitting down with your family going, we are running a deficit based on the family budget of a couple of $100s a month right now, and your kids start talking about how they need a new subscription service, and then you start talking about how you're going to finance to get windows put in the house. No, we're not talking about trying to spend the more money. We're talking about trying to reduce the money. But they showed up with ideas to spend more money. So until there are consequences, until there can be held accountable by voters, and in part that's based on messaging from Republicans and also silly voter decisions, it's nothing. They don't have any motivation to make any different decisions. There's no reason to change the course they're going on.
I do have word that the Trump administration is looking into this.
Interesting, but what could they do?
Well, from my understanding is they need some sort of conviction. Well,
conviction. Yeah, I'm curious about what they'd be able to do because how would they impact state law? They can't. I'm curious what they would do.
I want to be this guy.
Yeah.
It's like he gets before the judge. He's like, la, 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 la. I don't understand the words that are coming out of your mouth.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, okay. 2nd-degree attempted murder, go free.
Yeah.
Oh, walking around a college campus with a gun, an AR-15 style gun? La, 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 la. I don't understand the words. Okay, go free. Yeah, I could be...
Yeah.
And the Trump administration's like, we got to legally get him out, but we need a conviction, and you guys aren't providing the conviction. Apparently, he's supposed to be a green card holder. Who knows? Golly. Welcome to the state of Colorado. Hey, Bill, I've got a list of 400 artists that just randomly popped up. I don't know if you know this, but
400 artists.
You know, yeah, they recently put their name on something, so we know that they're engaged.
Oh, you're talking about the Jimmy Kimmel thing. Yeah.
Ben Stiller's on there, Chelsea Handler, a whole bunch of people. I don't know, a guy named Jack Gilpin, Jamie Lee Curtis. They're all on there. We know that Jarhead Pullis takes phone calls from celebrities with regards to legal cases.
That's true.
Who on here could we get to call Jarhead? Do you know a Tony Goldwyn? I don't know them.
No one's going to talk to me on that list. I'm not that important. There isn't a single person on there.
Robert De Niro?
There isn't a single person on that list.
Sharon
like,
Stone?
Oh, look, it's Bill Thorpe calling. They're like, no.
Sharon Stone? Huh. All right. Well, any celebrity out there listening to the Jeff and Bill show, Rita Wilson? Rita, can you call Jarhead and ask him to maybe call a special session on a law he signed that is threatening the people he's supposed to represent? And no disrespect to the Marines out there. I just love it with Jared. Okay. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Police in northern Colorado have arrested a, quote, dangerous man who recently was released from jail.
They already have his picture.
Right. They know exactly who he is. And the sheriff up there, Steve Reams, great friend of the program, 2 weeks ago was running around screaming from rooftops going, I have to release this guy because there's a stupid law in Colorado that says if someone deems him cognitively cognitively unable to understand the legal process, well, then he just gets to go. And there's nothing mentally wrong with this guy. He's not insane. He understands the difference between right and wrong. But some yahoo, and I want to know who that is. Put a name to whoever it is in the stupid state government that looks at this guy and goes, he's not cognitively able to understand this. Because the sheriff's like, we know this guy. He's very cognitively able to understand what's going on. So some yahoo deems that the stupid law in Colorado that was signed by Governor Polis, voted by Republicans, by the way, except for a few. I think Scott Bottoms might have been one of the few. But pretty much everybody else unanimously passed this law. And the law started out as this, well, if someone's mentally ill, locking them in a cell may not be the best thing for their mental health. And
it's just not going to. It's not going to help them. It's not going to help them get better. In fact, it can exacerbate some of those mental conditions. Meaning, you have someone that is more mentally ill by the time you get them out. So that can be a fair critique. But the idea that this individual, who, again, from what we've seen demonstrated and what we've got from the sheriff and other people, not mentally ill, but they say just doesn't understand the charges and the justice system. Well, our justice system is complicated. However, this may be a little bit too blunt, but Steve Reams had arrested this guy for pummeling an individual so badly the dude was sent to the hospital and has got months and months, if not years, of recovery because of the injury sustained during this violent beating. I'm sorry, again, maybe that I am not sophisticated enough, maybe I don't understand, but taking the guy, putting him into a jail cell, and showing him a picture or a video and said, you did this, that's why you're here. Don't do this thing on the picture and the video again. Okay? I don't understand why that seems to be complex and difficult. I don't understand why the complexity inside of this case is, why did you do this? Did he do anything to you first? If there's a no, and I don't understand, because this individual was able to, regardless of whatever their limitations are, they were able to procure an AR-15 style rifle and show up on the UNC campus a couple of days ago. And as the sheriff accurately outlined when he was on the air with us, when a warrant was issued for that person's arrest and they started looking for him, the individual left, went and hid in his parents' basement and didn't have the firearm on him. Does that sound like someone who doesn't understand the consequences of their decision? Now, they may not understand all of them. There may be issues. But what we're seeing so far is this person has at least a comprehension of understanding things we should do, things we shouldn't do, and the idea that maybe sometimes when I do things, I get in trouble.
Two things real quick. Number one, textbook example of parents who need to take some gosh darn responsibility. He's hiding in your basement. You have your own kid is so dangerous that the sheriff is making national news about them. The world's richest man, Elon Musk, is talking about your child. The governor of Colorado is talking about your child. Your kid is so dangerous that it's making national news. How about you drive him to the sheriff's department?
The other thing in this,
Golly. Are you kidding me?
The other thing in this is, could this be, and again, just suggestion from someone on the phone lines, could this be a comprehension based on just mental capacity? So the person not being mentally ill, but the idea being, okay, we've all experienced, and I hate to use this as an example, but someone that has Down syndrome, their comprehension of what's going on and things around them is going to be different than what you are. I know, not Down syndrome person, but I'm wondering if there's something in there.
No, you heard Steve describe him. He's a total problem.
Yeah.
This guy, they can't even get a picture of him with the mugshot because he's such a problem. And the second thing I want to point out, in this state, with all the gun laws we've passed, this guy with national attention, with a robust criminal history, still able to get a gun. Huh.
Well, the thing on the mental capacity, again, I don't know in the history if there has been any testing, etc. But again, it doesn't excuse the behavior. But what I'm curious about is when they say can't comprehend the justice system, normally leads us into the idea of not having the capacity to comprehend things that are going on. However, that person would probably also be in a different assisted living situation or would have some sort of a track record. And what I'm concerned about is you've got 6 other trespass charges on the UNC campus. And the reason I'm skeptical of any sort of a inability mentally, as far as something that has gone on that they don't have the capacity to understand, is because so far, according to the sheriff, we haven't seen that form of a diagnosis. And we do know that whoever's in the Justice Department said the person doesn't understand or can't comprehend what's going on, but they didn't talk about because of a limited cognitive ability, meaning this person struggles going to the grocery store and trying to navigate that environment, going and paying their own bills, doesn't have a problem navigating. The person obviously didn't have a problem navigating to the UNC campus on at least 6 occasions, now a 7th.
And has been trespassed. Okay, so look, if you're going to hold every cop who makes the slightest wrong decision in a split second liable for the rest of their lives, these stupid government psychologists, whoever it is that's determining that these people get out, start holding them accountable. If you deem this guy cognitively unable to understand what's going on and he gets out and harms somebody, you, Mr. or Ms. Little psych evaluator, you get held accountable. If you're going to hold my brothers and sisters in blue, and I'm not a cop, but I consider them brothers and sisters, in blue, accountable for every small, little, minute decision they're ever going to make, you get held accountable for this. I'm so fired up over this. Join the conversation. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Capitalist Law text line at 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
back to the Jeff and Bill show. Up in northern Colorado, a guy that the sheriffs keep having to arrest gets out because of state law that says if you're unable to understand the prosecution against you, then you get to walk free. This guy, there's nothing wrong mentally with this guy, but there's some nutcase in the process that keeps deeming him unable to stand trial.
If that's the process, teenage me sure missed out on a whole lot of opportunities.
No!
So many.
Curfew tickets?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't understand
I don't understand. It is hard for me to tell time, sir. I'm still working on that. I don't know where the big hand and little hand are pointing. I can't. I don't know. Mickey's hands are going someplace. I don't know what's going on, sir.
Let's go to the phone lines. Jay Henderson. Good morning, Jay. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Good morning. You know, the thought of the Missouri State Show Me. These guys are saying that this person is safe to be out on the street or the same room with all of us. And I'm saying, show me. All us signed off on this. Show me, dude. You're the dude that signed off on this bill. Let's put him in the same room with you. And you show me who's going to come out. And if this is the type of thing that you're going to put your name on, you're going to own it. And if you
I
don't
love
own
it, Jay.
then you don't have a
I love it.
backbone.
Text messages also saying,
Jay, nice
just take
job,
him to
man.
Wyoming. Take him to the train station.
I
All
love
right,
that.
you're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is 710 KNUS.